I'm going to, so we have a caller who disagrees with our first caller and with our agreeing with him.
Wow.
We got Billy, who is local here to Austin, Texas. How are you doing?
Not bad.
What's up?
How you doing?
It's getting dry. It's pouring outside.
Yeah. I guess it's raining outside.
I was calling about the caller. Well, first off, I want to know how everybody says that people used to think that lightning was God's wrath or something like that. I would like to know how people know that. Like, how do you know that that's what people used to think?
As far as what people didn't understand before we actually had the methods and tools of science to examine that?
People specifically say that lightning, or that thousands of years ago or whatever, people used to think that lightning was like God's wrath. I would like to know how are we aware that is the case?
Oh, how do we know that older religions had beliefs?
No, how do we know that people used to think that lightning was God's wrath? How do we know that?
I mean, there is such a thing as history and anthropology. I mean, the ancient Greeks actually left like mythology.
People are basically asserting what people thousands of years ago used to think, and they don't have any evidence for that. They don't have except for old books. But old books are all compromised, and so none of them can be considered.
I feel like you are basically taking an intentionally extreme position to illustrate some other point that you're trying to make. I mean, if you are trying to characterize atheists as saying that books are not evidence or that written history is useless, then you are misunderstanding the position. I mean, would you not agree that there is some anthropological value in uncovering original written works to getting an insight into the mindsets of the people who wrote them?
I think if some old books are compromised, then all old books are compromised.
What do you mean by compromised?
Correct. Yeah, that's what I'm not understanding.
Are over the course of thousands of years, that information has been altered and or manipulated in some way, or just translated wrong. It's easy to see that happens, all the time. So I'm not a Christian, but I'm a theist.
What do you believe? I'm not getting this.
I support front-loaded intelligent design theory, which just due to the obvious clear appearance of design in nature and
did we talk before?
But I'm sorry.
Did we talk before?
Yeah, I called months ago. I called months ago, but Matt diverted my argument to some farting pixies bullcrap that didn't get anywhere. But what I want to know is like old book, like people are allowed to make the claim that people thousands of years ago used to think that lightning
first of all, what's your time threshold? Because, like, for instance, we have writing from 100 years ago, which describes the conditions that they're in, and we know that not all writers tell the truth. So, would you say that we can't possibly know that World War I really happened?
I mean, I'm saying that all ancient literature, no matter what, has the potential for having been compromised.
Okay,
since we don't know.
I mean, but how ancient is ancient? Do you think it's okay to say that Charlemagne existed in 1215-ish? Do you believe the Magna Carta existed?
I mean, I don't make that argument. I don't know.
Okay, so. But I'm trying to understand the boundaries because you're making this sweeping blanket statement that history can't be investigated, and I don't think that's true.
Well, the blanket statement is when people just get to assert that they know what people even hundreds of years ago thought about lightning, like we don't know what people hundreds of years ago thought about
Okay,
lightning.
but
we can't
history
say
is not okay. History is not necessarily about 100% certainty, and neither is science. I mean, with science, you have generally a relatively high level of confidence based on experiments that you can repeat or observations that you can make based on stuff that you find. In the case of archaeology, you can have a more or less high degree of confidence that a certain theory or framework is true. And history is similar. Like, people will consider multiple sources in order to sort of pinpoint what a culture seemed to perceive. And so you have not just writings, but you have like discovered fragments of pottery which show like the way they may have lived and eaten and their general like movement patterns. Nobody, I think, takes a particular work of past written history as unconditionally literal necessarily, but they do use it as a data point to put together that information overall. Are you saying that it's impossible to get any information out of that?
That's not what I said. That's not what I said at all, dude.
Okay.
What I want to know is what data points are being used to determine that people thousands of years ago, or whatever, even hundreds of years ago, that human beings used to all think that lightning was created by Zeus.
Well, I don't say all, but do you think any of them did?
I don't know. I don't know. I can't trust. I can't trust.
Do you care to find out? Have you studied? I mean, I'm not a historian, and I'm assuming you aren't either. But before you dismiss an entire field of education, I think you should learn a little bit about what their methods are.
But what you just said right there, you said it's impossible to find out.
Right? How do you know that?
That's quite an assertion to make.
Because if some ancient literature is not trustable, then you can't trust any of it because you don't know what's trustable and what's not. Then how do you know? How do you know that people thousands of years ago thought that Zeus thought that lightning was made by Zeus being angry? How do you know that?
Look, suppose I give you a list of 100 statements, and I say, I mean, just 100 factual statements, like it rained on Saturday or something. You know, there's a cat in New Hampshire that is gray with brown tips on his whiskers. And I say, here are a bunch of statements. 5 of these statements are false.
Like, this has nothing to do with with my argument.
No, it does have something to do with what I'm saying, because you just made the complete blanket statement that if some things are unreliable, then nothing can be trusted.
Okay, well then how do you determine what's been compromised and what hasn't? How do you determine what's been compromised? Look, I see Christians getting attacked over their book, over their fear book.
Okay.
And talking about how it's been compromised over thousands of years, and they get slammed for that. Mm-hmm. But then I see an atheist come out and say, "Oh, well, people thousands of years ago used to think that lightning is created by Zeus," but they got that from an old book too, like or stone tablet or whatever.
And I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning of this call, which is that you're mischaracterizing the way that atheists deal with written testimony. Like, atheists do not say nothing about this book is in any way factual. Nothing about it is reliable.
I never said that they did that.
Right. They do say that you need multiple lines of information in order to verify something.
Yeah, I mean, I see Christians. They come up with all kinds of different lines of sources for their information. I mean, I'm not a Christian, so I don't know what that is, but they have some seriously backed up arguments. With
okay, so now you're just saying stuff without specifying it. Like, you can't just say they have some seriously backed up arguments. Would you say that there's a worldwide flood?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Like, I don't. Okay, so it's not all that seriously backed up.
I don't trust ancient literature at all, because I don't know what part of it could have been compromised and what couldn't. And so if you can't determine what's compromised and what's not compromised, then you have to assume that it's all. Then you have to assume that you can't trust any of it. Because how do you know?
Do you have to assume that?
I'm sorry. You are saying this very confidently, as if you know this, and I don't think you do.
But it's also the claims that you're using on that portion. You're saying that talking about people that lived thousands of years ago, believing that there was a deity that controlled lightning in this instance, and that is equivalent to Christians today believing in the Bible. Well, the Bible is the claim. As far as people that you compared, talking early on the show about how people thousands of years ago may have had a belief that a deity controlled lightning, and comparing that with Christians. Hold on, with Christians today that believe their particular holy text. The thing is, when we look at, say, past religions like Norse mythology or Greek mythology, there's a lot that's there that seems to indicate that there were individuals that had at least some level of belief that a deity either controlled or manipulated, let's just say, stick with lightning. That's completely separate from the fact of Christians believing that their holy book is true and the claims within that book that are true. That's an entirely different point of thought, because those claims have to be substantiated. The ones that happened in the past, we can point to evidence of those past religions, the way that they used deities that controlled and manipulated lightning and thunder, to say that it seems that people in the past, at least to some degree, had a belief that a deity controlled and manipulated thunder and lightning. That's different than saying that the beliefs of Christians today, within depending on what denomination they hold from in their holy text, that those claims are true, because those claims have to be substantiated. That's a whole different set of things of thinking.
Don't they all have to be substantiated, though? Like
the substantiation is the existence of those religions and the amount of information that we can pull from Norse mythology and Greek mythology, and the fact that they have deities that were present in those that control lightning. That points to individual. Oh, go ahead.
Dude, there are Christians today. Do you agree with that? Like, Christians exist right now.
Dude, this is getting into a realm of Christianity, which I'm not, which I don't.
You act as if this is a separate realm, like talking about Christianity and talking about ancient Greek mythology are completely different, and they aren't. Like, do you think that people today believe things like Jesus rose from the dead?
Yeah, I'm sure some people do. Some people still think the earth is flat.
Yeah. Do you believe that?
Clearly, I do not believe that.
Okay.
Clearly.
This is also a 2,000-year-old book of stuff. Do you think that people at the time when the Bible was written believed that Jesus rose from the dead?
When was the Bible written?
The Bible was written over a pretty long period of time, as you can read about in people who go way more in depth than I care to have written about their studies of anthropology that show how the Bible was written. Like, I mean, if you want me to go into the history, the Old Testament started out as oral tradition, and then the New Testament is generally attributed to four different authors who don't map directly to the authors of the Gospel.
I mean, none of that none of those old fear books actually, can be substantiated at all. That's why I'm saying, like the claim.
But you believe that people believed it, right?
I don't know. That's the whole point. That's my whole argument. Is like you can't assert that you know that people thousands of years.
So what you're saying ultimately is that if you have anything less than 100% certainty, then you have 0% certainty. Then you don't know shit about statistics or probability. You don't understand anything.
I know vastly more than you do.
No, you don't. Get lost.
I was really trying to understand it, because he was talking about.
I mean, this guy doesn't believe in math.
But it's like the claim talking about people that existed 1,000 years ago believing in a deity that controlled thunder, it's like we can't say 100% for certain, but we can say of the preponderance of evidence that we have been able to ascertain thus far about religions that have existed in different worlds, and their artifacts and their art, and everything that we have points that there is some chance that, yes, some people probably did believe this. That's something we can kind of point to. As far as current day, talking about the claims of the Bible that haven't been substantiated, that's a whole different realm of thought. That's a whole different discussion to have on that portion. When you're talking about the claim that people in the past believed this versus the claims of the Bible being true. And if you don't know one, well, you can't obviously know anything about the other at all. You got to kind of let it go and just don't think about it.
Yeah, I mean, what this guy was saying was basically that, if you roll a six-sided die, this is equivalent to saying that if you roll a six-sided die, you can't get a six because there's a less than 100% chance you'll get a six, so you can't get a six, it's zero. Like, there is a distinction between having perfect certainty and having a reasonably good probability. And, knowing things about probability and statistics and applying them to the concept of the ability to know things, I mean, epistemology basically, is basic to our ability to build knowledge about the world around us. And this guy wasn't even making an argument about the existence or non-existence of God, or about the or about the notion of intelligent design that he's yammered about in the past. He was just making this basic argument at its root level that you can't know anything.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
All right.
waste of time.